Amen. Verse 4, or chapter 4. When Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry, and he was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, "What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are?" Sanballat. Now the people have got to work, and what happens? Now the opposition starts. Because everybody didn't want to see the city rebuilt. There were those who would rather see the city lay in ruins. What are these feeble Jews doing? What are these folks doing? Are they going to rebuild in a day? Do they really think that they're going to be able to take that mess and turn it into something? Really? Them feeble Jews, they don't even have no money. These folks they fresh out of captivity, fresh out of bondage. What can they get done? So the opposition started. And what was the response? Verse 4, "Hear us, our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in the land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders." So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. The more opposition they got, the harder they worked. The more opposition, the harder they worked. Did you ever notice in your personal life, the more you pursue after that thing that God put in your life, the more opposition comes your way? See, I don't know where we got this idea that once we commit our lives to Jesus, everything is going to be all right. No, doesn't work that way. Because the very moment in time you set your heart to pursue the plans and purposes of God for your life, that's when the opposition is going to start. But what it should do, it should make you all the more determined to pursue the things of God. Does this make sense? That's why I tell people, never tell me what I can't do, because it only makes me that much more determined to do it, especially when I know what I'm doing is of the Lord. Verse 10. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, "The strength of the laborers is giving out." You know, they working hard. They getting weak. So the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there's so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. And our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we'll be right there among them, and we're going to kill them, and we'll put an end to the work. So the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, "Wherever you turn, they will attack us." Therefore, I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with their swords and spears. And after I looked things over, I stood up and I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, "Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your people, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes." And when our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to our own work. So God is now revealing to Nehemiah and the supervisors of the work what the plots of the enemy is. So God is saying, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let y'all know what your enemies are up to. That's right. So I'm going to let you know what your enemies are up to. I'm going to let you in on their secrets. I'm going to let you in on the things that they talk about when you ain't around them. I'm going to let you know what their plans are to defeat your purposes. I'm going to let you know so that you can strategically put people where they need to be so the work can keep on going. I love the Lord. Woo. Isn't God good? All the time. Says, so look, y'all go down here. Y'all go down there. Y'all go over here. Y'all go over here. So then when the enemy comes, y'all fight. Because I got to build the city. So the work has to continue. But in order for the work to continue, we're going to need some folk who can be on the lookout for the enemy. That's their job. They don't need to be constructing gates. They need to be on the lookout for the enemy. And God just has something for everybody to do. Nobody gets left out. So they did. Chapter 6. So when word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, and the Arabs, and the rest of our enemies that I had rebuilt the wall and not a gap was left in it, though up to that time I had not set the doors in the gate, Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message: come, let's meet together in one of the villages. Now they want to talk. But they were scheming to harm me. So I sent messengers to them with this reply: I'm carrying on a great project and I cannot come down. I'm involved in something too important to come down and deal with this foolishness that y'all talking about. This is what he's telling the enemy. I'm doing a great work and I can't come down. We have to know what's important and what isn't. We need to know that as a church, and we need to know that in our own individual lives. Some things are important and some things aren't. And we have to know how to discern the difference. Because a lot of times people can get caught up in a lot of stuff that's just not important. So I'm doing a great work. I ain't got time for that. I'm doing a great work. Why should the work stop while I leave and go down to you? 4 times they sent me the same message, and each time I gave them the same answer. At least Nehemiah was consistent. Nothing like consistency. It's like Popeye. I am what I am, and that's all that I am. Then the 5th time, Sanballat sent his aside to me with the same message in his hand and an unsealed letter, and he sent this letter. Verse 16. Y'all didn't know I could go through this much Bible this quickly, did you? When all our enemies heard about this, all the surrounding nations were afraid, and they lost their confidence because they realized that this work had been done with the help of God. You just get to the place where you've done everything that God told you to do. You stood up against the opposition. The folk have gotten ordered. The folk are prepared to work. You've started the work. The enemy has come. God is showing you how to defeat the enemy. The work keeps going. The work keeps going. The work keeps going. God's favor is on the work. Everything. That's what the Bible's talking about. Whatever you put your hand to do, I will prosper you. Amen. I'll bless everything you put your hand to do. How many people other than me would like to see that reality? Amen. Everything I put my hand to do seems like I got the Midas touch. Everything I get involved in prospers. Everything I set my hand to do is blessed. That's the blessing of the Lord. But there's going to be opposition. That's why you need the blessing of the Lord. That's why you need the favor of God. So that when the opposition show up, God knows how to deal with those who oppose his work. God can deal with them. You just be focused on the work and your purpose. Amen. Verse 8, so nothing like what you're saying is happening. You just making it up in your head. They try to accuse Nehemiah of trying to, connive and trick and stuff. He said, ain't nothing like that even happening. You making stuff up. Sometimes you just got to tell folks, you just making stuff up. What you talking about don't even make sense. So, but the pastor, that's not compassionate, but it's the truth. They're all trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will get too weak for the work. They won't complete it. Verse 16, when all our enemies heard about it, all the surrounding nations were afraid. They lost their confidence because they realized that this work had been done with the help of God. Also in those days, nobles of Judah sending letters to Tobiah, and replies from Tobiah kept coming. Verse 7, after the wall had been built and I had set the doors in place, the gatekeepers, the musicians, and the Levites were appointed. Now notice something. After the wall had been rebuilt, somebody say after the wall had been rebuilt, after the door was in place, then the gatekeepers, the musicians, and the Levites were appointed. No one was appointed until after the work was done. Y'all got the picture here? Now they all had some positions they were going to be appointed to, but until the work was done and everything was set in order, nobody was appointed. That wouldn't work too well in American Christianity. Not here, I'm talking about in American Christianity. Because everybody wants their appointment first. People want an appointment before they even start working. Title. That's what people used to ask me when I was coming up ministry in some of the other churches. And I used to wonder. I said, well, so when am I going to be called a teacher? They said, when you teaching. Well, when I'm going to be called pastor? When you a pastor? Well, when am I going to get the title of deacon? When you deacon? The title confirms the work that we're doing, not the reverse. Does this make sense? After the wall had been built. So I put in charge of Jerusalem my brother Hananiah, along with Hananiah, the commander of the citadel, because he was trustworthy and feared God more than most people do. I'm closing. One of the things that came up yesterday, they were talking about like small group ministries, leaders over groups, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when I went to the committee meeting, they asked me what I thought about it. I said, I think that's a great idea. I think that's the Wesleyan way. I said, I had a question that I wanted to ask, but since I'm in the committee meeting, I'm not in the second section. They said, well, what's the question? I said, I agree with the concept, but here's the thing. What processes are in place? Now, y'all listen to this. I think this is a good question. What processes are in place to ensure that the people that are over the groups are the right people? Because you can put the wrong person over a group, and they will tear your church up. That's true. That's true. Mm-hmm. I've seen it happen. Not here. I'm talking about just in my 30-something years of church involvement. I said, put the wrong person. And the DS said, man, that's a great idea. I wish you had asked that, because I'm sure a lot of people were thinking it. That's a great question. What processes are in place to ensure the right people are over those groups?